Welcome, everyone. I call this meeting of the House and Children Family Affairs Subcommittee to order. Haley, would you please call the roll?
Representatives Bricken. Here. Eldridge. Here. Farmer. Here. Gillespie. Here. Harris. Here. Stewart. Chairman Littleton.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any personal business anyone has? Hearing none, we'll move right on with the calendar. First item is number 1, House Bill 1866 by Representative Cassida. Representative Cassida, you're properly motioned and seconded. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. It's an honor to be here. There is an amendment that makes the bill.
Is there 2 amendments or just the one?
Just the one amendment that makes the bill.
And which one do you want to go with?
And that drafting code is 012859.
Okay. Would you like to? The amendment's properly motioned and seconded. You're recognized.
And this is a self-explanatory amendment. Basically, what it does versus the original bill, it takes it out of 100 and puts it under 106, which makes it more applicable to the situation. And then basically what it says in short is that if after 36 months with no attempt at supporting, I'm sorry. Oh, that's the wrong one. I've got the bill in front of me. Well, committee, thank you, Ben. Try 013132. And in short, it says when a parent has failed to pay court-ordered child support for a period of 36 months, this can be a factor in determining visitation.
Question on the amendment. Without objection, we'll be voting to put amendment 013132 on to House Bill 1866. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is on the House bill.
Madam Chair, can I ask the legal drafting code 012859? What does that show in your all system?
We need to go we're out of session.
Okay.
Legal.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Drafting code 012859.
Yes, sir. That amendment adds the word indigent into your original.
Okay. So that's going to be an amendment that we need as well then, correct? We don't need that? Okay.
That amendment adds a whole separate section.
Okay.
And it deletes all other language prior to. So both of them delete all prior language. So
okay.
It's either,
the amendment we did
and then if you adopt this one next, it will delete the one that we just added.
Okay. Okay. Because we do need indigent in this bill. The word indigent.
The one that we just adopted adds as a factor for the courts to consider whether or not a parent has failed to pay court-ordered child support for a period of 3 years or more.
Yes.
So that it adds it as a factor.
Okay. Okay. Just a factor. Okay. You're right. Okay. It's coming clear to me. I remember the conversation now. Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
So we are back in session. Representative Custer, you're recognized.
Nothing else to add, committee.
On the bill as amended.
Yes. And I have nothing else to add. It's a pretty simple bill, and I think it's important. I think it's important that you support your child, and if you don't, then you lose the privileges of having that child.
And I think this does leave some of it leaves it to the discretion of the judge, right?
Thank you, Chairman. And because yes, this becomes a factor in determining. That's correct.
Are there any other questions? Questions been called for? Are there any objections? Hearing none. House Bill 1866. We'll be voting on House Bill 1866. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? House Bill 1866 moves out to full civil.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Next, we have item number 2, House Bill 1666 by Representative Smith. Representative Smith, you are recognized with Properly motioned and second.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee. This almost looks like a caption bill, but this does exactly what it says. This makes it's a permissive bill that permits the court to order mediation between parties to take place by video conferencing. There's no fiscal note on this, and I want to thank my court back home in Hamilton County for bringing this bill to me, and look forward to taking questions from the committee.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions for Representative Smith? Hearing none, are we ready to vote? Without objection, we'll be voting for House Bill 1666. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. You will move out to civil pool.
All right, thank you, committee.
Next, we have House Bill 2046 by Representative Bricken. Properly motioned and second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I do it from my seat?
You may.
Okay. This bill, House Bill 2046, was brought to me by the Child Advocacy Centers, and it basically just adds one sentence or amends one sentence of the code that will allow that the Child's Protective Investigative Team to add the appropriately credentialed medical provider to the team, so that medical provider would be recognized as a team member, and it's a may, so the team may add a medical provider to the child preventive team.
Thank you for bringing this bill. I work with the Second Look, and this is one of the things that we talk about all the time, that a medical professional should be around with the investigations when there is one, but every county doesn't have one available for the CAC. So this is a real good bill, and we're proud to put that on this, to pass this. So are there any other questions? Hearing none, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of House Bill 2046, say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. You'll move out to civil. So are there any other questions or concerns that we need to discuss before we go out of session to hear the Department of Children's Services? Hearing none, we are out of session. If you would come up and present your name and who you're with, and for the record, please. We appreciate you guys being here today. I think you have some important things and fun things for us to listen to, so we're glad. We appreciate all that you do.
Good afternoon, Chair Lady Littleton, members of the Children and Family Affairs Subcommittee. Thank you for letting us be here today. You know, I've appeared in front of you all several times over the past 3 years or so, and am always encouraged by the questions and comments and interest that you show towards the department's mission and vision. And as you know by now, you know, our mission is to provide high-quality prevention and support services to the children and families that we serve. Those services to promote safety, permanency, and well-being, all three being equally important. And I had a conversation not too long ago with some of our senior leadership, many of whom are here today, and I said, you know, we have to get back to the basics. Every decision that we make, every dollar that we ask for, if we do those things under that umbrella, thinking about our mission, that everything we do, all services that we provide, should go to promote safety, permanency, and well-being of children, then we can't go wrong. Not saying we can fix everything quickly, but we can't go wrong. And as you all know, it's a large department. We are divided into multiple regions across every county. We have 95 offices. We have counties, offices in every county, plus some, so a total of 103 offices in this state that don't close, even during the pandemic. You know, many other industries were able to work from home, and we couldn't do that. we have 3,800 budgeted positions, actually 3,848. Of those positions, 2,765 are case managers. And I bring that to your attention because, Chair Lady, we've talked about personally and have questions that we, like most agencies across the country, public child welfare agencies, are hurting for employees. We are down 550 case managers right now. And so when you hear that our case managers are overworked and working a lot of overtime, they are. They are. And we'll talk about that in a little while. I'd like you to look at the slide now that sort of shows the difference in our custodial numbers from this time last year. As of today, we have 8,932 children in state custody. This time last year, we had 8,829. There's the breakdown between foster care and juvenile justice involved children. As of today, 8,359 are in foster care and 573 are juvenile justice youth. So there are 148 more dependent and neglected children in custody than there were 1 year ago. And there are 45 fewer juveniles that have been adjudicated as delinquent in custody. And that's a trend that has continued to decline since 2018. And, you know, you heard a moment ago how large the department is and the fact that we're in every county. And you look at 8,932 children in custody, and maybe you think, well, you know, with over 3,000 employees, why is that so hard? But remember, in 2021, calendar year 2021, we served an additional 123,000 children that were non-custodial. And so, in addition to these children, we are serving that many children through a variety of ways: family support services, the Family Crisis Intervention Program, resource linkage, CPS assessment, probation, diversion, aftercare. So that's where, as they say, overworked, underpaid thing comes into play, because with our employees, they are serving that many children. The next slide shows you the number of calls that come through the hotline and shows you how those numbers have changed since 2019. In 2021, the total report to the hotline was 144,983. So despite the fact that during the pandemic our numbers did decrease some right at the beginning, those numbers have clearly come back up. The interesting thing that we're seeing is numbers have gone down, to the actual where you dial in the phone call. Where they've gone up is there's a way to report online. So we're seeing, just sort of the traditional way of making reports through phone going down, but the numbers online going up. And they both come in through the hotline, so our numbers overall, 10% fewer reports from 2019 to 2020 and 2% fewer reports from 2019 to 2021. So our Office of Child Safety has seen an increase in the number of cases that they have investigated. So in 2020, they investigated 65,011 cases, and in 2021, they investigated 70,121 cases. And those cases are cases that came in as referrals, either through the hotline, calling in, online, or through police officers. The abuse, as far as we can tell, seems to be more severe and more complex now than it used to, attributed to increased drug usage, mental health issues, and also a longer wait for services. Now, last week, I was here when some contract providers appeared before you all to talk a little bit about what they do. And so they are experiencing the same thing that most other industries are in terms of having a reduction in staff. And so when they have a reduction in staff, it causes us and the children and families we serve to have to wait for services. So that's not a positive thing, something that we are continually working on, and they are as well. We've also noticed an increase in the cases that need court involvement or long-term monitoring, and so we are working with a variety of partners to address those longer-term cases. Youth Villages, Strongwell, that's one that works with our drug teams. And, the longer they stay in custody, or the longer they need services, of course, your numbers are greater than they otherwise would have if it was somebody that was coming in and could work their program and then exit. The next slide is devoted to Second Look, and it's already been mentioned today, and I know Chair Lady Littleton, you're an active member on Second Look, and I just wanted to point out several things that we have implemented as a result of recommendations from the Second Look Commission. We have increased our partnership between CPS, our Child Protective Services, our Child Safety Division, and CACs. And those community partnerships train and educate many people on child abuse. And we are focusing on educating our own staff and the staff of our partners to identify domestic violence in CPS cases. And we sort of have coordinated our efforts with several domestic violence agencies to collaborate and sort of share resources. We're also collaborating with the Department of Education to support child abuse coordinators with them. One thing we're sort of proud of is we created a video to share with local firefighters, who are often their first responders, to educate them on the signs of child abuse and neglect. And we're offering that training to educators and first responders, medical staff, law enforcement. And in 2021, we also created a child sexual abuse prevention campaign. It included a video and social media messages, and we received a grant from the Office of Criminal Justice Programs to promote the video and a message using social media and trying to target specific audiences to spread the message. And I want to show you just a 1-minute version of that video.
When you ask me what is wrong, I don't know what to say. I'm scared. I'm confused. What if I told you something happened to me? What if you don't believe me? I'm afraid you will get mad.
Child sexual abuse is hard to imagine when it happens to a child you know, and the abuser knows this. Nobody wants to talk about it. If you learn a child is being abused, step 1, above all else, believe the child. Step 2, seek help immediately by calling the child abuse hotline. 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. Child sexual abuse is in every city, every town, every neighborhood. Prevention is possible. It doesn't take a hero. It takes someone like you learning how to keep a child safe and joining the effort in your community to prevent child sexual abuse.
Because you believe me, I got help. We got help. Now I can be a kid again.
There you go. And our next slide talks about foster care. You can see the numbers from 2018 to 2021 in terms of our new foster homes that have been improved each year. We continue to actively recruit new foster families, but what I can tell you is that in the last year or so, fewer families are applying, and I'm talking about both DCS foster homes and our provider homes. We are still able to maintain around the 5,000 number, give or take a few, but it's a struggle to continue to recruit and retain those foster homes. And it's not just a Tennessee problem. We sort of looked through some recent headlines, and I looked as far away as Oregon and heard their director of foster placement saying he's never seen such a shortage of homes in his entire career. In Texas last month, over 500 children didn't have a placement, and we're spending the night in offices. In Illinois, there's a shortage of beds and foster homes for kids in state care, causing hundreds of kids there to spend the night and spend months in emergency shelters. So it's happening to many, many other states that are both county operated and state operated, like our system is. So our greatest placement need, when people say, what can you do? I always like to remind people that our greatest need in foster care is for sibling groups and for teenagers. Sibling groups, of course, when children come into custody, we do our best to keep the siblings together because it reduces trauma. And right now in Tennessee, we have 896 sibling groups of 3 or more children. So if you're a foster parent, and the difference in taking one child or taking 3 or more, it takes a special family that can open their doors to 3 or more children, in a single day. But we have many that do. We also have 1,600 teens between 13 and 15. And we have 1,500 that are between 16 and 17. And these groups are where we struggle the most to find placements. There are a couple of new initiatives to support foster care that I wanted to highlight. One is that we contracted with the Casey Family Foundation to hire an expert, a nationally known foster care and recruitment expert, to help us figure out how to enhance virtual training and how to engage potential foster parents, more successfully communicate the profiles and needs of the children to these potential foster parents. And we continue to work with them. We also formed a Journey foster parent group. And Chair Lady, that's the group that I asked you to appear before. And we're proud of that. It's an advisory group of foster parents from across the state, both DCS families and provider families, that give feedback and solution-focused guidance to our leadership. And one of the reasons I ask you to appear as representative of this committee is it's important that our foster parents across the state know that you are here and listening, and that this committee exists. And I look forward to you explaining that to them, and I hope you're able to join us the next quarterly meeting. We also have introduced what we're calling assessment homes. Assessment homes are going to be specially trained foster parents. When children and youth come into custody, these foster homes will take them for that first 30-day time period where all of their physical health, their mental health, whatever, alcohol and drug treatment, if they needed that, or other therapy, all of that will be assessed during that 30-day period. The hopes of being that when we do place that child with the foster family, that it will be a successful placement, as opposed to a child coming into a family and within a day or two, the family sort of figuring out that this is not a good match for them, that the child has needs that they're not able to take care of. So we're excited about the assessment homes. You all know that we partner with the Isaiah 117 House. We continue to do that as a support for our staff and for the children. We seek to not have children staying in offices, and Isaiah 117 House, is one way that we're able to do that. It's a warm, comforting place. They're beautiful and they're comfortable, and they have volunteers that love on the kids. And when the kids are brought into custody, they go there while our staff works to find a placement. They also provide office space for our staff, so that our staff can work right out of there while the child is in one room, maybe eating or playing a game or watching a movie. Our staff can be on the phone trying to find a placement. And just for your information, there are currently 12 Isaiah 117 houses under construction, and another 13 in the planning stages. And there are 7 of them that are open. And you can see they started in the east, and they are moving west across the state. And if you all get an opportunity to go visit one, please do. They're very impressive, and we're proud to partner with them. Last March, Governor Lee launched Tennessee Fosters Hope. That's a statewide collaborative campaign. which draws in community organizations, business organizations, houses of worship. The purpose to be elevate high-quality care, increase the number of foster and homes and adoptions. And we're happy to partner with Governor Lee, his Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, Tennessee Kids Belong, Show Hope, Tennessee Alliance for Kids, and with Both Hands. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead because we all have our budget presentations coming up, but Governor Lee's proposed FY23 budget includes funding for several Tennessee Fosters Hope initiatives, including the extension of foster care program. And what that will do is, when extension of foster care are for youth who would otherwise maybe age out of foster care, choose to stay in foster care. In the past, if they were in a 2 or a 4-year educational program, but this will extend it to where if they're in a vocational training or if they have a job, the goal of which is to give them truly the tools they need in those early adulthood years, I guess to help keep them on course and provide the support that they wouldn't otherwise have. Another thing in his proposed budget would be to increase the board rates for relative caregivers. Those are our grandmothers and grandfathers and aunts and uncles that are taking care of children. Expanding child care vouchers to foster families that have been adopted through DCS, and increase the rate of expedited kinship placements. And what that means, when a child comes into custody, the first thing we do is look for, relatives, kinship placements. And very often these family members are not certified foster parents. So they could take a child, but if they don't become certified foster parents, they wouldn't get that stipend that you all provide for our foster parents. And so we want them to get that help. And so we go through sort of an expedited process for these family members, and this will increase the rate of pay, a stipend that they get during that process of becoming certified foster parents. And finally, I want to end with some updates on permanency, which is the heart of what we do. The majority of children who enter DCS custody, actually around 80%, are reunited with their parents. But for some families, reunification is not a reality, and those children are ultimately placed into full guardianship after a judge terminates parental rights. And our adoption team works hard to find forever homes. You can see pictures there of 3 families who adopted children. In 2021, we had 1,222 children adopted, and 412 found permanency through subsidized permanent guardianship. As we talked about before, in some families, the permanent guardianship is a better thing for that family. So it doesn't force perhaps the biological parent to have, a child adopted by their mother or their sister, but instead permanent guardianship becomes the way. And we are proud that despite the challenges that everyone is under right now, that our numbers have gone up. In 2019, we had 1,553 children find permanency, and that went up to 1,618 in 2020 and 1,634 last year. So that's something to be proud of and something to celebrate with those families. And just as a way of closing out, I wanted to show you as we come upon Valentine's Day, DCS celebrates what we call Adoption is Love Week, the week of Valentine's every year. We started that a few years ago. And I want to show you a clip of a family that we celebrated last year.
February is Love Month, and adoption is love. We are celebrating today a family that adopted a 16-year-old in the year 2020.
Hello, we're the Gus family, and I'm Chad.
I'm LaShawn.
Cody.
Crystal. Faith.
Elizabeth.
Elodie.
Alvin.
Gavin.
Nick. Brett. Arnie.
We also have a certificate for race things for every
The Gus family started fostering in January of 2011. They have fostered 37 children. They've adopted 3. They have 3 biological children, and they have 1 child in extension of foster care.
Foster care has made my family what it is.
You want them to feel like they're at home. Our kids that wake up at night and want to rock the kids after get emotional.
When you see another child with Chad and LaShawn, it just is this moment where you say, there they go again, just being them.
We hope that every child that walks through our door feels that our home is their home.
So thank you. I'm happy to take any questions you all may have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I've got a couple of things. The assessment home, can you kind of say a little bit more about the assessment home? Because I think that's going to be a really good thing for DCS and for our children.
I will start, and while I'm starting, I'm going to ask Sandra Wilson to come up and maybe fill in a few holes. So placement stability is an issue, always an issue with public child welfare. A child comes into custody and you know so little about their history, what their needs are. You have a goal, of course, of being able to place them with families, and when that doesn't work, you start looking for alternative placements. And learning about that child and what their needs are is sometimes difficult. So the assessment home would be sort of a first stop that a child would go into these specially trained foster homes, foster parents that we're already very familiar with and have been working with for years, and that they would sort of be that first stop off for a child.
How long would they be? Can they be in that assessment home?
30 days, I believe, but.
Yes, thank you. Sandra Wilson.
Okay.
Commissioner has given you a high overview, and the model we're developing is somewhat unique. Some states have used an assessment home model. We're trying to tailor ours in a way that it's not just a 30-day stop, because we are looking at it to improve placement stability, and the feds only recognize the first 30 days and don't count the placement instability against you if the child is there no longer than 30 days. So for the past 8 to 10 months, we've had a statewide work group of DCS staff and external partners working on developing a model that will fall under the clinical umbrella of one of our stellar partners who are trained in the Bruce Perry model of assessing kids, and they will provide in-home services to foster parents who accept an assessment child for between 14 and 30 days, and develop a comprehensive assessment to follow that child to the next placement. This clinical group will also continue to provide services to whatever that placement resource is for up to 6 months. And so we're extremely hopeful. And I should say, we are not implementing a wholesale model. It will evolve. We'll begin making placements in the first 3 or 4 assessment homes this month and continue to see it evolve through the end of this fiscal year, and hopefully at the beginning of next fiscal year, we'll have homes in every region.
Thank you. As we've talked about in my office, I've been concerned about the foster parents are not really, when the child first comes, there's so many things that they have to do in that first month. So I think this is a great program that will help them not be so busy when they first receive the foster child, because I know there's so many, the medical, the doctor, the dentist, they get their eyes checked, and they have all the therapy things and caseworkers. So I think this would make it a lot easier for a foster parent to consider being a foster parent, because then this will already be taken care of, and they won't have to take off work and do those things. And then they'll also kind of know exactly where that child is and their condition before they accept the child. And I think that will help keep them from being moved from home to home. because I know that's so hard on them, and it's devastating to, to go to one home, and then 6 weeks later, they go to another, and they're just looking for love. So I think this would be a way to, a great start, so thank y'all for doing that.
That's our vision, and we've actually got an evaluation team attached to it so we can follow the success of those placements.
And can you kind of touch on, I think I'm right about this, at first, both foster parents were to take the 24-hour classes, to go to classes for 24 hours. Is it not separated now, where it's like each parent can do 12 hours online? Is that, do I have that correct?
The 24-hour requirement is modified so each parent can do 12 hours, or any segment of the 24.
And can
You
they
could,
do
you
it
could
online?
have one do 4 and one do 20.
Right.
And can they do it online as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know some of them, in Dixon had to go to Clarksville to take their classes, and they had to take them at night and leave their family at home. So I think we're on the right track of trying to make it a lot easier, I think, for our foster parents.
Well, that's an example of the things that they have brought to us. I don't believe that one was brought through the Journey Group, but it was brought to us by a number of foster parents and from both DCS and provider homes. And we worked to change policy. It made sense, and we're trying to make it doable for them.
And I want to say, too, none of us want to be here in this place talking about foster children or children in DCS, but we have to think about the safety of our children and the homes that they go back to, or the homes that they move on to. So it's not a comfortable thing to do, but when we see that we're doing things that makes it easier to bring in families to help us take care of those children, it's success as far as I'm concerned. So, are there any other questions for DCS? Representative Stewart, you're recognized.
Just a couple questions. Have you ever conducted? I was reading an article in the Tennessee Tribune which suggested that Alabama has a lot better outcomes than Tennessee with respect to keeping families together. Have you ever looked at that? Is that accurate?
Commissioner Nichols, would that be towards you?
Thank you, Chair Lady. We have, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, approximately 80% of the children of our families are reunified. I don't know what the Alabama, the study, but I'd be very happy to read it and then come back to you and maybe try and make some correlations between what they're doing or what they're counting, maybe.
Okay.
Stewart?
If you'll give me a week or so, or a few days at least, to look at it, I'll be happy to come back and talk to you or talk to the committee.
Okay.
Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and I appreciate that. And I guess what I'll do is I'll get you the information. I was just curious. And do you have any information in general, kind of comparing our programs in Tennessee to those in other states, and determining our effectiveness vis-a-vis other states' programs?
Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Lady. We actually do work very closely with the Children's Bureau, and they have we're in a region with them, and I'll have to have somebody help me list all the states, but I know it's Georgia, Alabama, Florida, us.
North Carolina.
Okay. We're all in the same region, which is why when you said the Alabama, that's not going to be hard, for us to get. And so, yeah, we are on sort of a pretty frequent, I don't know that they're setting out to compare us, but we're able to see what they're doing and what we're doing on our, on the measures that they use to compare us, and that's something I could share with you too. We've actually done really well on that, and have been asked several different areas to partner with other states where we're doing better than they are on certain categories. I know Kentucky recently, and where else?
We have a pending request from Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi and Kentucky, but there have been others, but I'd be glad to tell you that as well.
Terrific.
Commissioner, if you could send that to our office and we could send it out to the whole committee,
Okay.
that would be great.
Okay.
And then we'd all be see where we're at.
We will do that.
Thank you. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And just one more question. Would it be possible to get a list of the lawsuits in which DCS is currently a defendant? I don't know if you have that compiled in a spreadsheet or something. I'd like to see it.
Commissioner?
I'm looking at General Counsel, who's nodding his head yes. Representative
Perfect.
Stewart? That was I didn't know if we had it compiled on our spreadsheet. Obviously, we know which cases we're defendant in.
Could you
Representative
forward
Stewart.
that to the, thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Could you forward that to the Chair Lady's office so we could all look at it?
And yes, sir.
Thank
we sure
you
will.
so much. I appreciate it.
Representative Stewart?
That's all I have.
Chairman Farmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to say I appreciate all you all do. You know, I've had the opportunity to experience the deal with the department in several different ways, mostly through my law practice, right? And I've been involved in the permanency plan, putting together the permanency plans and dealing with the attorneys the department has and dealing with the caseworkers. Such an important job, and they work so hard, and you all are understaffed. And I just appreciate how hard that from boots on the ground all the way up. I know you care. I know I've spoken with the commissioner, even the attorneys, the mid-level, even to the attorneys in the courtroom, right? And I've never seen a situation where everyone wasn't working as hard as they could to reunite families. And it's really unfortunate, and some people may disagree, but it's really unfortunate that sometimes families, it's just, people just can't get there, and I know in Tennessee, I had a colleague that raised the situation or raised the analogy, well, why can't we do like this state or this state? Well, it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges because each state has their issues about certain things. And unfortunately, Tennessee was hit really hard with, the opioid crisis, right? A lot of children lost their parents permanently. They're not on this earth anymore. They died. And some children lost their parents to the drugs themselves, synthetic heroin, something that a lot of people just can't come back from. But I did want to say, in my opinion, and from my experience and what I've seen and dealt with regards to families, with regards to kids, regards to folks that work for the Department of Children's Services, you all do an excellent job. And I know your heart's in the right place. And we're, not only are we saying, well, this is what we're doing, you're doing it. I like the new initiatives that you all have came out with. They look great. With regards to, sexual abuse with children. And it's unfortunate really to think that it's in all the communities across the state. And it's like, I want to think, well, in Sevierville or Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg or in Dandridge, it's not happening, but it is. So anything I can do to help, I'm here. I know Chair Lady and every member of this committee, too, is going to be supportive and want to be supportive to help the department move forward and protect these kids, get these kids back with their families, and give them a good place to be. The Isaiah House is great. Been and visited those places. We got one, I believe, in Cott County. I think we're working on one in Jefferson County, too. So really like to see that move forward. So just wanted to say thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you.
Representative Harris, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. So I do have a couple questions, but I won't probably run through all of them. So I'm dealing with the situation. Obviously, I get an opportunity to work with some of the members from DCS. I love this topic of foster care, adoption, and our children and our families. And so I love being on this committee as well. When I'm dealing with a situation within my district where I have one specific family, the mother was put in a situation where her child tried to allegedly kill her. And when she called the police, they came, took her away, took the child away, obviously placed the child under DCS custody, and she's had to go to court to battle a couple different situations with that. In doing so, she gets an opportunity to still communicate with her child on a regular basis, but the placement of where this young man gets put in is in some tough situations and tough family foster care units, and he keeps getting moved. I know this isn't the first situation, but it does happen. And so recently, I got another call. I know she's called me at least once every 2 weeks, but I got another call that he was placed in a home with someone. The foster parent is a nightclub owner, so at nighttime she leaves the child at the actual house. He's texting her and talking to her, to the mom. And so they connected with his caseworker, but his caseworker isn't able to do as much as he would like to do. And the caseworker turned around and told the mother that she should, because he tried to kill her, she probably should just give up her parental rights. And so our training that we're giving to our caseworkers, and I know they're overwhelmed with the load like we spoke about, but I did want to ask about how many of our kids get returned to their actual parents and through that process, and what is the case manager workload across our state as it currently sits. Also, to add, I know that we are doing budgeting right now based off of what the governor is placing inside of the budget. What is the need for additional caseworkers that is not being covered by the current budget that we as a committee can advocate for on that need for not only you all's department, but for the child, the family, and that foster parent as well.
Commissioner?
Thank you.
And let's kind of touch on, too, about the shortage of caseworkers while you're speaking on this, because I know that we have a shortage, but it's because they're not applying for the position instead of that we're just not hiring them, but there are positions open that aren't filled. So if you could kind of touch on that with his, I think it kind of fits in together.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think, Representative Harris, thank you for your concern for your constituent and the family from West Tennessee. I know Sandra and I was making mental notes and want to look into the situation you described, and always know that if you're getting calls from someone, I hope that you would feel very comfortable picking up the phone and calling me and letting us work through it with you and look and see if there's what's going on. I know I've done that with other members that are, I'm looking at several of them right now that we've done that and been able to help. So that wasn't your question, but please do that. As I said earlier, in terms of the actual numbers of children that are returned or reunited with their biological family, our average has been, over the past few years, somewhere between 70 and 80%, and it's 80% right now.
It is.
So 80% of every child that is brought into custody is returned. So, the custody numbers, as you heard, move. They haven't moved greatly, but you heard our numbers right now. We have some 8,900 children in custody. 8,932 as of today. So if you wanted to take today's average, and you're better at, I'd pull out a calculator and try and figure out 80% of that, but you could basically look, and that's what the average would be, that are returned. I know that was the first question, and there was another question from Chair Lady Littleton about sort of the shortage of case managers, and you wanted to know about caseloads. Well, we are required to keep an average of 20 cases per case manager per region. And so what that means, we have many, if I can go back to that slide that has our regions, and while we're pulling that up, you'll see that some regions, like Shelby, have 1 county. And then we have other regions that have 14 counties. And so, especially what it means with respect to those regions that have multiple counties, you could have a county, say, look at Upper Cumberland or South Central. That's the gray and the orange. I'll look at South Central. So, and I'm pulling these numbers out of a hat, Representative. So, you could have caseloads in Hickman County that are really, really low. And then you could have caseloads in Coffee County that are really, really high. And we would still be meeting our responsibility to have an average caseload of 20 cases per case manager per region. What we are now doing, and I may have to call somebody else up here, but we're trying to take it, we used to look at it like once a month, I believe, and now we're trying to do it twice a month to see how we are meeting or not meeting, that average of 20. I can tell you we're struggling. The numbers are there, that the people ask us for the numbers and we put them out there. Nobody's playing hide the ball here. It is hard with being down 500 and something case managers right now. And so you think about it, one case manager that had 20 cases leaves, resigns, quits, just leaves. Then everybody around her or him, immediately have 4 or 5 more cases if you can split them up, between 4 or 5 people. And so if they already had 20 or 22 or 24 when they came into work that day, they leave having 30. And that's without any other kids coming into custody, and that's how it happens. They do change every day, but I guess so. Giving numbers to anybody, we do at a point in time. We can look and tell you what the numbers are, right now. The numbers may be different tomorrow, but we just ask people to keep that in mind. Am I saying that correctly, Deputy Commissioner?
It's totally correct. And if you look at that map, there are some significant inequities in terms of what the caseloads are. Currently, and this is not always the case, but currently our 3 urban regions, which are single county regions, are bearing the brunt of the vacancy rates.
Representative Harris.
Okay, so as, because this is your department, what are we doing to actually fix or correct that at this point? I know I see what you're saying, and I get it. And I see, obviously, Shelby is one that has a county by itself. Knox as well. Davidson's one. But what are we doing to try to move the needle on fixing that to where I've had 2 case managers reach out saying that they had a caseload over 70. Not really sure if that is accurate or very true, but it was stated that they had a caseload over 70, which is over the 20 that you're saying.
Sure.
So what are we doing to make sure that, how are they being able to address those?
So I'm going to ask 2 people to come up. I think Martha's here. Is Martha here? Okay, I'm going to ask our HR director to come up and I'm glad you asked, because we probably have the most robust recruitment effort going on right now that we've ever had. And she will be better able to tell you exactly but in terms of recruiting, we are literally we're trying to change the way we go about it. It used to be you posted a job, but now we're having single job fairs. We are having job fairs where we go in with other people. We are going into the universities. One of our deputy commissioners has gone into the classroom, the social work classrooms at college, trying to talk about our department and becoming a social worker for the Department of Children's Services. We are, of course, I have advocated for resources. That's no secret for our case managers, because in my mind, you make it more attractive for people to come to work for you. You have more case managers, and then they have the caseloads are spread out. I mean, it's common sense there, right? I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm just trying to get more. I want more people to want to work for us. And in terms of addressing it, I'll defer to Director Shirk, I guess, to give more details about our recruitment efforts. We have hired a recruitment director. And
could you state your name and who you're with for the record, please?
Fred. Just hold it down.
Can you hear me? All right, thank you. I'm Martha Shirk. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources. We have, as Commissioner said, we have reallocated some of our HR positions to develop our own internal recruiting team. We have 1 full-time recruiter right now. We're in the process of interviewing for a second, and we are then going to move into reallocating a 3rd position. What we have done is we have really focused on social media and paid sites. The state's process previously has always been to just post on the state's website. What we've found is that doesn't always work. So we are spending, money to post on LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, pretty much every site we can find. We've been trying to post different things across those sites. Over the past 4 months, from those sites alone, we've had 350 people apply that would not have otherwise applied. When we get that lead, per se, from one of those sites, then we reach out and contact that person and talk them through how to apply for the positions. So when we get our second position, we're going to have that person focus solely on recruiting universities and college students. So they will be on the ground, because right now one person just can't be everywhere. Then once we get, I'm sorry. All right. And then once we get the third position, that person will also be a direct recruiter, reaching out and trying to help us source candidates as they apply, and other areas that we can do. So we've focused a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of dollars toward trying to fill our positions. The problem that we face primarily is the pay. You know, we don't pay competitively for the type of work, and we don't pay competitively in comparison to the other states around us.
And has there been a compensation study of any type to try to move the needle on that?
So, I'm sorry. Sorry, thank you.
Answer yes, and we're in the middle of one now.
Oh, okay.
We did our own internal study to compare surrounding states so that we knew what we were up against. Right now, DOHR is doing a comprehensive enterprise-wide study with Ernst & Young, and that should be completed in the next couple of months. And I do believe, that there is money in the budget for July 1 increases based on that enterprise study. We don't know yet how much we will get out of that.
Chairman, obviously, once they get an opportunity to finish that study, if you would request to have that sent out to our committee, so that way we can have that input on that as well. So last question, and it's not going to be an HR-related question, but more so on the parental side of it. For parents who have a child in foster care, and of course they're trying to work their best to get their child back, and we as DCS and as the state would like to see more of our children going back to our parents and our families. What is the process that they currently have for children, for the families, for the parents to be able to report when there's an issue? How do they report issues, and how are they addressed? Where at what point do we start addressing those issues, and how do we resolve it in order to make sure that child gets back into the home? I can just use just a briefly one scenario where this young lady who was removed from her home because her step-parent had abused her. The dad, was doing all that he could to take care of her while he had custody, but he was then taken away as a result of that. The young lady wants to go back to her father very, very badly. She hasn't had an opportunity to see her dad in a couple of years, but the process is not allowing that to happen. So what is the process for the child to say, "Hey, this is what I would like"? What is the process for the parent who had to give up their child to our care to be able to say, "Hey, let's work together as a team"? I know we have what is it called, CFTM? Yes, okay. So we have those meetings, but what is the process to make sure that child has that opportunity to eventually go back before they are above age to be able to go back to that parent?
All right, so I'm gonna switch back off and ask Deputy Commissioner Wilson to come back, and may need our general counsel to come for the legal part.
Okay.
So you're right, CFTMs, or Child and Family Team Meetings, are meetings where when a child is in custody, like the entire team comes together. And by that, I mean the child, the parent or parents, the foster parents, the GAL, if a court-appointed has been assigned to them from the court, and even support for the parents. Like if the parents feel like they want to bring an attorney, or they want to bring somebody that they believe needs to hear and help them, those people can all come together to have a voice and to try and figure out what is in the best interest of the child. And so the process, that's the CFTM meetings that you referred to. If a child has been removed because of opioids, we talked about the drug, and we know what an impact that has had on Tennessee. And the parent is working the program. I mean, let's say they didn't have housing, or they didn't have, still had a substance abuse problem. You work in the program, trying to find stable housing, doing all of these things, and we sort of work in lockstep with them. I mean, our case managers and the courts, though, because there's a judge, out there that, one in every county, that also have sometimes very different opinions, than maybe the parent does about where the child should be. So it's sort of, I don't know that there's any one track towards reunification, but then tell me what I'm not hitting on. I know that the parent has to work the program. Whatever caused that parent to lose custody needs to be corrected if it can. And like using your example, it doesn't sound like in that case that there was a situation where a parent is never going to be reunified. I mean, you can imagine there are some cases where that's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not. I think everybody agrees that sometimes that's never going to be the right thing. A child is severely abused. There's some things that maybe aren't going to result in reunification, but Deputy Commissioner, what would you say?
The Commissioner has quite appropriately and adequately explained the process. The simplified version is every child that enters custody has a permanency plan developed that has to be approved by the court. And those permanency plans are guided by the CFTM, or the Child and Family Team Meeting process. In terms of the legal aspects of what has to occur, I am going to defer to our General Counsel.
Could you come forward and state your name and who you're with, please, for the record? We haven't seen you in here for a while, have we?
I'm Doug Diamond. No, you haven't seen me for a while, so I've hid my cheery face from you for a little bit, I guess, but I'm back.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm General Counsel for DCS. What precisely would you like me to answer?
So I guess since you've joined me, I guess I can ask another question. I will make this very short because I know my committee members would love to be able to leave out of here. But I would love to just know from your standpoint, since you are the attorney for this, what are the when the department reviews a lawsuit, how many at this very second number of lawsuits are we dealing with from the DCS at this very second?
I can't give you a precise number at this minute. They come in regularly. You're saying how many lawsuits against the department are there?
Yeah.
There are a number of them, and some of them are in the Claims Commission, for instance, and they're there, but they're in the Claims Commission. The department's lawyers are not involved with them. The Attorney General would represent the agency there. But we don't have very many. There's probably a dozen.
Okay.
We're going to get you a list.
Yes, we'll get you a
Representative
list.
Stewart wants a list, and we're going to send it up.
Lots of lists, lots of lists. Representative Harris.
And so
some are minor, some might be by plaintiffs who are pro se plaintiffs, and they're not lawsuits that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on.
So in simple form, the process as to how, if I have, for example, the constituent that I have right now, she called on Saturday. If she had an issue, typically prior to the new administration, I had Attorney Drew Wright, and I would just text him. He would be able to respond back on those issues, and then try to get me in touch with the case manager for it and figure out how we can speed that process up. But what is the typical form for a child to be able to voice a concern to their case manager, and what is that process if that case manager is unable to answer or take care of the needs for that child? What's the next step? Who do they go to?
Mr. Diamond.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Drew Wright did not function, while he's an attorney, did not function as an attorney for the department. He was our legislative liaison. It must have been because of your position that he worked with you. If a child has concerns, there are a number of ways they can address them to their case manager. Children should be at Child and Family Team meetings, and they can address them there. They could also every child should have a guardian ad litem. In Tennessee appoints a guardian ad litem for every child that comes into custody. Our guardians ad litem are pretty dedicated and pretty passionate by and large with the children, and their job is to light a fire under us if they're not happy, frankly. And I had somebody once say to me, well, this guardian ad litem's making us miserable over this, and I said, that's their job. Good. Now let's get it done.
Mr. Harris.
I don't have any additional questions to that.
But
I will.
I want to add on
will
there,
say-
is that, and I've already said it once, and this, if any of you know of a particular issue that is, causing grief, you can call. And Jim Lehman, who is also a lawyer but functioning as our executive director of legislation, stepped into Drew Wright's position, and anytime anybody calls him, or anytime any of you call me, we're gonna get you an answer, and not just a check mark box. We try and work through and get a problem solved, and we're going to continue to do that. The GAL, I agree with Mr. Diamond, is every child's best voice, because that GAL, they're supposed to be objective in the best interest of the child. That's the child's voice. Sometimes parents aren't the child's voice, but the GAL would be.
Well, thank you so much. I know Drew escaped from having to hear from me all the time, so Jim's aware that I'm going to be reaching out quite a bit. So I do have a list of questions that I want to ask, and so what I'll do is I'll make sure that I get with you all as soon as possible to see what we can do to address some of those situations. But I thank you for being here. Thank you, Joel.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Eldridge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know, I know we touched a little bit on your recruitment efforts. How many openings do you have for social workers currently?
500 and, I've got it written down. It's over 500, excuse me, which page? 554.
554.
And so if we were able to fill those positions, I know there was a previous question about, the shortage and how many you need. I need to fill those, before I could honestly sit before this committee and say, and ask you for 100 new positions. Our case numbers, y'all could give me 100 new positions, and then I'm going to have 654 vacancies instead of 554. So we need to get people in the door that stay and work and that have a full caseload, and then be able to tell you, we don't have any vacancies and our case loads are still too high, but I'm not in a position to do that. Yeah, they're too high, but don't know if they would be, don't think they would be if we were able to fill those vacancies.
Okay.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know you talked about going to the universities and everything. Is that limited to the four-year universities, or do you go to like community colleges? People look at people with associate's degrees or anything like that?
COA, our accreditation requires, in the law, I guess the law requires, doesn't it, that our case managers have a four-year degree. There are other positions within the department that don't require a four-year degree. So we are definitely recruiting, and one of the reasons for going to the junior colleges is because a lot of those people may continue their education, and you want to go ahead and, sort of get in line and just say, go ahead and finish, and we'll be here waiting for you. So there's really not an avenue right now that we are not interested in pursuing.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
It looks to me like that would be a good way to recruit more people, is to look at the community colleges, to people that would like to continue their education and may be able to work with these departments, not just yours, but others. I think everybody's kind of in the same boat as far as recruiting and everything, but be able to get people maybe in a position where they can work with a social worker or someone who is accredited, and maybe prepare themselves to move into that position at a later date. But I think that's a good recruiting tool to keep in mind, to try to go earlier on your recruiting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? You're recognized, Chairman.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make it quick. Just a couple questions in regards to recruiting, right? Do you currently have the resources you need financially to be out there and do what you need to do in regards to recruiting and filling these 500 plus positions?
Well, you heard the executive director, Martha Shirk, talk about how she has really restructured HR. There were positions that she didn't think were being utilized to their fullest, so she is changing them with DOHR to the recruiters. And so as she said, that we're trying to build up to having 3, and I think that will, if we were able to have one in each grand region, able to, I mean, because they're going to know their regions. They know every, junior college, every, avenue. That's what we're shooting for, is being able to have that many. And I believe, excuse me for turning around. I mean, are we headed in that direction? She's going to come up here. That must mean no, because she didn't shake her head yes. So thank you.
Yeah.
Just please state your name.
Thank you,
for your
Martha
records.
Shirk. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources. I believe when we get our positions allocated, we will be fine on the position side. However, where we are struggling is with the dollars needed to go out to these sources. For example, LinkedIn is over $600 a month for one posting. So there's one Zip recruiter who, because of the number of vacancies we have, they wanted to charge us $35,000 a month. Obviously, we're not going to do that. But there are costs to each of these sites that we use, and we know that the sites are producing applicants for us. It's just they are very expensive when you sign the monthly contract with them to post.
One more follow-up. So we have 500 plus positions vacant.
Those are just case managers,
Right,
sir.
case
Yeah,
man-
we have more vacancies than that, but those are case managers.
Okay, so I'm just saying, say 500. Those are funded positions, right?
Yes,
Can we reallocate those dollars to HR and use those dollars for the case managers that are open in order to fill in the meantime?
Well, our assistant commissioner over finance is not here.
Okay.
I know, I guess one con against doing that would be to take we're trying to fill the position, so you don't want to take the money away and use it for something else. But I wouldn't know whether that was something that we can, move money back and forth, because you guys have funded the positions. And I don't know how easy that is to move money back and forth like that.
That might be something we could help with.
But we can,
Well,
I can ask. And
Yeah.
If you would ask, that might be something that we can help with as well on our side, so, Chairman?
And I'm not saying, look, take all the money and move it. I mean, 500 positions plus whatever else positions. If we're funding it, the money's there, we set it aside. Why don't we maybe we can temporarily move it to a different spot to be able to fund what you need in order to fill them, and then we can move it back, right? I don't know, but that's something to think about.
Well, we're making notes, and we'll check, and we're open to any good idea like that.
Remember, we have caption bills. We might get help with that. Yes. Representative Harris?
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I also agree with Representative Farmer on that. I'm Director of HR and Local Government as well, too. So I'm in the situation where I'm short on certain staff members, certain group of staff members, but because we budgeted for it that year, we can take those dollars that we aren't using since they're absent to utilize for other things. So I would hope that we could possibly do that. I would love to know the answer to that, too, because if we could, you got $60,000 budgeted for that one line for one case person, and they haven't been here, and so now you have an excess of $10,000 that still has to be used for the rest of this year. Then utilize it so we can figure out a better way to recruit some more people. I would support that, whatever.
Well, we will get an answer, and just like the others that we're going to send, Chair Lady Littleton said that you all get it. We'll get answers to that question.
Okay. And also, if you could send them the link where they can get the acronyms. I know there's so many, aren't they on the website?
They are.
Yes, and I think they changed. I've got a copy. I finally found my copies when I moved offices, but there's so many, so that's very helpful to be able to just go through that and look at the link and see what they all mean, because there are lots of them. So, are there any other questions or concerns? Well, thank you very much for being here. It is enlightening to know that we're having new incentives to come real soon, and I know that we're working with the governor with the foster care program, and there's a lot of good things going on there. So even though it's a sad thing, we're working in the right direction, and we like to say in our committee that we can't save every child at one time, but if we can do it one at a time, then that's what we intend to do, is save one at a time. So thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're back in session. Without objection, or do I hear a motion to adjourn? Thank you. We're adjourned.